Hello, hello.
Hello.
I think we're live. How is everyone?
Very good.
Doing well. Just muted my phone.
We've got a good 600 viewers. That's great. It's nice to see you all.
Nice to see you all, and welcome back to our second live stream of 30 Days of Flutter. So we are so excited to have you right now watching us, right? So let's get started. Simon, go ahead.
Well, do you want to introduce myself? We'll go for the introductions again. Yeah?
Yes, please. Let's do that. Can you share the
I will share the stream.
Yeah, perfect.
So my name is Simon Lightfoot. I'm a community leader and also a CTO at Dev Angels London, small developer agency. And you can find me on Twitter at Dev Angels London. Scott?
I am Scott Stahl. I am in Cleveland, Ohio, organizer of GDG Cleveland, and I've been helping build the Flutter community for about 3 years now. Majid?
And my name is Majid Hajian. I'm a proud community leader, as well as a Flutter Google developer expert. So I'm happy to be here. You can follow me also on the handler, which you can see on the screen. And let's get before starting this today's live stream, let's go to the code of conduct as usual. So our tradition. So the code of conduct for the live stream is pretty simple and easy. And in maybe one word is just be nice. Be nice to each other and follow the principles that you see on the screen. And that's it. And I'm sure that all of us will do. So, Simon.
Okay, I think we're going to introduce our first guest. Scott, take it away.
I'm not the first guest.
No, introduce the first guest.
Now, as we tweeted, we have a couple of mystery Googlers here today. So the first one is a man of mystery. And who are you, man of mystery?
Man of mystery. Hi, everyone. I'm Jay. I'm a new product marketing manager who just joined the Flutter team at Google. Before Google, for the past few years, I worked in developer marketing for EOS, one of the larger blockchain platforms. You can all find me on Twitter at JD Chang. I'm part of the team that obviously helps organize events and does case studies and other cool marketing initiatives with Neela and others on the DevRel team that you may already know who show up in these videos all the time. Obviously, I'm really excited to be here for 30 Days of Flutter. This is like a really cool learning journey. Obviously, because I'm new to Flutter development, just getting started to learn. So obviously, leading up to all the big things we have in store for March 3rd, we'll be following along and learning with you for 30 Days of Flutter. This year, given everything going on in the spirit of the global Flutter community, we're super excited to be doing the event virtual. It'll be a little different, of course, from our past events, those that have been and hung out with Dash and others. But we really can't wait to share the experience with everyone. It's going to be, really cool. One community around the world. Everyone's invited. We've got a lot of really exciting announcements and demos and special things planned. So, hope to see you there. If you haven't yet, of course, follow us on Twitter, Flutter Dev, for the latest news. And stick around because I'll be back at the end of the stream with a special announcement.
Okay, well, we'll be hearing back from you soon. Thank you for catching up.
Thanks, guys. We'll see you around.
See you soon, Jack.
So, guys and gals, everyone that's listening in. So we were seeing quite a few questions, and we've actually already seen quite a few great responses on Twitter and other social media. I know Randall's been inundated with questions that have come through, and did
he leave any for us to answer?
Things.
Did Randall leave anything for us to answer?
Right. So we have got a few questions through, and we will be taking questions from the live YouTube comments in about an hour, I think it is, or less than an hour now, half an hour, something like that.
Yeah.
So we'll see how we progress through the stream, but let's get to a couple of questions.
Simon, but before that, maybe we should show, and we should tell like our viewers right now how they can ask questions, where So maybe you should show the hashtag, and so we could remind them. Like, yeah, that's very good. So first of all, you can ask your question in the comment here in YouTube. Of course, you can always tweet with this hashtag and comment under the video, or we have Discord community, also Slack. So you can also ask your question with the hashtag over there as well. So any other places that I forgot to mention?
Well, if they need to find anywhere else, it's at flutter.dev/community.
Exactly.
You'll find all the places. All of these channels have ways of communicating about 30 days of Flutter, making sure you use the hashtag anywhere and people will notice and understand what you're talking about.
Absolutely.
Okay. And another thing that was just pointed out is you don't have to ask your questions in English. You can ask in Arabic as well. We do have folks here. And also, if you ask in other languages, we can probably find someone to translate.
So we've put through a few questions to one side that have been asked around. I'm going to see if I can address a few of them right now. Shall we bring a couple of people in to help us out?
Yes, let's do that. Yeah. Let's do that.
So I think we have a special guest, Mr. Flutter Egypt himself.
Mr. Flutter Bus.
Oh, hello everyone. Assalamu alaikum. Nice to meet you all, and welcome to our second live stream. My name is Ahmed Abouddahab. I'm a Google developer expert from Egypt, and I'm very happy to be with all my friends. We all know each other since years now.
Wow.
And I'll be happy to be here to answer any Arabic questions and anything related to Flutter. And I'll be in the backstage. Thank you, everyone.
You'll be here for a bit because Ahmed is my oldest friend in Flutter, by the way. When we first started with the Zoom and a few other things, we were first forming Flutter community, Ahmed was the first one to show up. And at least he was the first one to talk to me before logging back off. How's that?
Actually, the Flutter community started with us at the beginning. Then all this big, huge, great community continued growing.
Two of us, and then Simon, and then Nash. But while you're here, real quick, talking about answering questions, the Flutter bus.
Yes.
A lot of folks who are new to Flutter don't know what the Flutter bus was. And it's kind of important. The Flutter bus was going around, answering questions. But where did you take it?
Yes, first it started in Egypt. Every weekend I was taking my car and going to a new area to giving talks about Flutters. It started from Alexandria, December 2017. This was the first session for that. And then I covered most of areas in Egypt. And then it moved to Oman, Saudi Arabia. With Google Developer Relation, we take the Flutter bus from the regional area to be more international and covering more countries: Saudi Arabia, Oman, Algeria, Tunisia. No, I went to Tunisia, but there is no Flutter bus at that time. And I think Kuwait. We didn't able to take it to Kuwait. So 5 countries. We trained more than 11,000 developers at 2019, and it's continue growing. I think the people we reached in the last 2-3 years was more than 25,000 developers.
Yep. You did that the hard way, face to face.
Yes.
Yep.
Yes.
That's Ahmed's been working at this a very long time. Sorry, I just wanted to make sure to point that out.
Thank you, bro. Thank you.
Do you want to stick around, Ahmed, on the stream for the minute while we join some other guests in?
And in fact, it looks like we already have one question in Arabic that appeared here. Can you read that?
Let me. Okay, someone asking is, did I reach it Palestine? No, we was not able to do that. This is the only Arabic as I can see in Flutter. And in the comments, sorry, I can't see any other. It wasn't a technical question. It's about the trip. Did we reach it, another country or not? Yeah.
Okay.
All right.
So
there's actually Ahmed. Sorry, there's one question in the chat. If you look at it right now, so I can point it out for you. I don't think it's similar.
Ahmed Zarka is thanking me only. Thank you. Ahmed.
No, okay,
No,
I think
no,
you're
not-
looking at
not
the
them.
YouTube chat.
Yeah, not YouTube chat.
Okay. They're asking what they need to start learning Flutter. Actually, I can answer that in Arabic or not, or in English. Yeah, because they asked it in Arabic.
Yeah, ask.
English version. I already recorded 6 hours of full Flutter study jam in my YouTube channel. So you will find
actually linked to that's actually linked in the Flutter community YouTube channel at the very bottom of the community of the homepage. You'll see there's lots of channels. I don't know if you want to translate that into Arabic.
Exactly.
And also, this question has been answered 100 times in English, but go ahead and answer it in Arabic, please.
اوكي البدايه ان انت تحمل الابلكيشن، طبعا تحمل الاس دي كي. في كذا يوتيوب فيديو بيشرح ازاي تنستول على الويندوز، على لينكس، على الماك. ثانيا عشان تعرف ايه هي مميزات فلاتر وايه الفرق ما بينه وبين التقنيات الاخرى، انا مسجل 6 ساعات كاملين بشرح ده من البدايه خالص. حتى لو انت ما عندكش خبره سابقه بالبرمجه، انا عندي محاضره كامله عن ايه هي البرمجه وليه احنا بنحتاجها. في مجموعه من اللايف كويستشنز واسئله واجابات عن جميع الاسئله اللي انت محتاجها، المسارات، الروابط، ايه افضل الباكجز اللي بنستخدمها، ايه طريقه الاركتكتشر المفضله مثلا اللي احنا بنستخدمها. كل ده موجود على القناه. كل المطلوب منك تنستول الابلكيشن وتسمع الاثنين فلاتر ستادي جام، وبعدها انت تقدر فعلا تعمل اول ابلكيشن ليك. بعد كده هتتخصص في نوعيات معينه من الابلكيشنز، في محتوى تاني، في محتويات عربيه الشباب بدأوا يعملوها بتشرح تجاره الكترونيه او اي كوميرس. بعد كده ممكن تخش على الدورات الكامله. في كورس كامل لانجلا موجود، وده مدعوم من فلاتر كوميونتي. بالاضافه ان في كذا كورس على يوديمي مدفوع، تقدر تشوف ده جاوبت عليه بالتفصيل في المحاضرات بتاعتي. بس البدايه install Flutter then go to Flutter Study Jam. Thank you.
Awesome.
Wow.
Thank you very much.
That was record setting for speed.
Yeah. Go straight through that.
But hey, no, it's, Flutter's worldwide, and it's one of the great things about the community is we don't harp on things as you have to do it in English, you have to do it in English. No, you don't. We have a lot of people covering Spanish, covering French, covering German, covering, lots of languages.
We said meetup.com. You can find search for Flutter, and you'll find a meetup definitely in your area. We had in 2019 we had 70 locations worldwide that were part of the Hack 19 stuff, and that was all across the world, all sorts of different languages. And that's I think that might have even doubled now. It's huge. So if you're looking for a local group of people that are interested in Flutter that speak your language, meetup.com, that's your first point of call. So shall we bring in some other people?
Yes, please.
I was going to say this is perfect because there's one question right here asking about how to use the spacer widget, and this is the perfect time to bring in a gentleman, Randall. Can we get Randall in here?
Hey,
Randall.
everybody.
Hey, Randall.
Hello, Randall.
It's a privilege to be here. Thank you for inviting me back again.
Oh, hey, thanks. I needed you for this one because somebody's asking how to use a spacer widget.
So the space, yeah.
Yep. Randall and I have a bit of a history with that one.
Yeah.
Sorry.
So
it was Oh, go ahead.
Go ahead. Oh, sorry. You're finishing.
No, I was going to say the spacer is something that I came up with because I was feeling lazy.
Yes.
And Randall ended up insisting that I push it to the framework, and now we have it. But using the spacer, really the way it was designed actually is the spacer is nothing but an expanded with a sized box inside of it. So what happened was I got tired of doing these manually, so I created a spacer. And what a lot of people don't think about is that when you're using a bunch of different spacers inside of a row or column, you can set the flex values so that they total to be 100. What's going to happen, no matter what, is the framework is going to add up the values of all the flexes and then do the math to figure out what percentages each one's going to get of the leftover space. But it's a little easier on the brain if you make sure that all of your flexes add up to 100, because when you look at it, that is the percentage. that it's going to end up being able to have. So that's the way I designed it to work. But you know what? Do whatever works for you. If you prefer to have 1 and 2, that's great. If you want to have 66 and 33, that's great too.
Well, Scott, you did such a great job. I'm done. Whatever you just said.
Well, no, you get the next one.
Okay. It's been nice seeing y'all.
So, yeah, please, if we don't get to your questions this stream, we have got this segment. We've got 2 more segments after this, so don't worry. We're going to answer lots more questions. But I just want to reiterate, if we don't see your question right now, don't worry. Place it in the YouTube comment, and in the next video next week, we'll make sure that we try and get to more comments, more questions as well.
Absolutely.
Okay.
We're looking at being here every Wednesday.
So someone asked on Twitter, Mohammed Hanna, hashtag 30 days of Flutter, can we write native Kotlin in Java and Swift/Objective-C in Flutter? Is it complex compared to React Native? Who here has done React Native? That's the question. Anyone here so far? Because I wonder if we have a guest or 2 that have done React Native.
And let's invite them, maybe.
No, apparently not.
Okay.
The stream is breaking down already. Okay.
Oh no.
Well, anyway, I'll give you some feedback on this point. So, from what I understand, and my React Native knowledge is this big, but from what I understand, you have to do your JavaScript component that maps to your native code for iOS. You have to do a bit of JavaScript code that maps to the Android side, and then you do another bit of JavaScript code which kind of brings the 2 bits together. And it gets a bit messy and crazy. And I think that's what he's saying here. It's quite complex with React Native. If you want to do native components, that is UI components, so maybe you use an SDK from an external provider and it has a widget, let's say a video player, streaming, recording, live player, who knows what, and you want to put that in your Flutter, you can do that. However, what you really need to do is we have a thing called platform channels, also called method channels is a specific name for them, and that allows you to communicate to your native code and back again. So as Scott alluded to in the last stream, if Flutter itself is not an operating system, it doesn't have GPS stuff in the API, right? If you need to do GPS, it goes across a method channel and asks the operating system to find out what your current location is, and then it returns it back to Flutter. And that sort of that crossing that bridge is what it's called, crossing that bridge. You try not to do you try and do it as little as possible, but to be honest, it's really lightweight and compared to other solutions. So, but that is the way you would sort of go around writing Kotlin and Swift with Flutter, but you're not writing your Flutter apps in Kotlin or Swift. It's just you're using them to add additional functionality.
Right. And one other difference too, when you're working with React Native and a lot of those others, you're going back and forth the bridge constantly because you're using all components that are in the native OS. Whereas for the vast majority of components you're using for your UI in Flutter, they're within Flutter. So you're not crossing that bridge nearly as often.
So
let's
can I answer?
Do we want to bring some more guests? I think we have a couple of guests waiting in the backstage.
Oh, sorry.
Dominic. I think we have a Dominic here.
Hello,
Dominic,
Hi.
and
Hey.
Tomic as well.
How are you?
Hello,
Tomic
Dominic.
as well.
Welcome back.
How you doing, guys?
Pretty good. So Poland is strong here.
Yes.
represent.
Yeah.
So we've got a couple of questions. I'm going to offer them to the panel here for the moment. I'm going to really on Twitter we had a Yogesh. I'm not going to say his last name. I can't say his name. Last name, Yogesh. He said, "Can we create annotations for Dart like Kotlin or Java?" Anyone know the answer to that one?
So
Yes, we can
I can put some say something. So annotations are basically in Kotlin or Java code generations. So if this is your question, if you are asking if you can create some code regarding the annotation, yes. Flutter and Dart has code generation that you can create your own annotation, and behind the scenes it will generate code. Anybody want to add anything to it?
Well, it's actually used quite a bit, especially by the packages that are doing either immutable objects or to and from JSON. So there's this builder phase that goes ahead of that, and you annotate your objects in a certain way so that it can pick up on that and generate all the wonderful code that you need to get back and forth to JSON. But you can write whatever you want. There's been a lot of different stuff done with annotations, but there's no access to that sort of stuff at runtime. This is all at the build phase, which happens ahead of the compiler actually grabbing everything that you've done.
So, I was actually looking into this. There is, just to make people aware, there is a package called Meta, which is used by Flutter, and that contains some of the basic annotations. If you look at what annotations actually are, they are just object instances. So you can actually literally do, if you do this right now in your Dart code, you can do const name equals object brackets parentheses, and you can do @name above any class, and you just or above any function. You just annotated that. It's as simple as that. The premise though is that it doesn't do anything for you, right? Like it's not gonna. It's just there as a remark for the developer. If you actually want to do something with annotation that requires code generation, that's a different subject, as Tomic was alluding to. Yeah. What else do we have here?
Can I ask a question? Because I've seen these questions several times on Twitter, and people asking, like, if they want to do Flutter, should they also learn Swift and Kotlin and other languages, or they don't need that?
I don't think it's necessary to learn the other languages at all. However, what I would suggest is they are going to have to learn, if they want to release on Android, they need to learn a bit about the Android build system, right? Like how Grader works, maybe how to configure things. But you learn that as you go, right? It's not, you don't need to learn the entire thing from scratch, not like learning a language. You just learn the little bits. Whenever you have a problem, go fix it, and you'll learn a little bit more. The same goes for iOS in terms of, opening up Xcode, learning where the buttons are to do certain things. What does everyone else think?
Let me append to that for a second, which is that you don't need to learn the vendor languages if there already are plugins in the pub, of which there are thousands, would you say, something like that, that are actually have the specific code for iOS and Android already written for you. So you don't need to know a bit of Swift or Objective-C or anything like that. These just work out of the box. But if you have a task that isn't provided in the pub, then you might have to write some native code if it's something that has to talk to the OS beyond what people have built for you in pub. And then you submit it to pub. And it's like, yeah, now that's handled for all the people that didn't want to learn the native languages, already. So that's kind of the way it's been working for me. I don't know any of those languages. I just know how to type pub this.
Randall, can I add one more thing? One thing you definitely don't need to use, learn, is how to create views, how to create actual UI content in iOS, Android, because this code is pretty old on both on Android and iOS. The way how you did it didn't change in last 10 years. For me personally, it was really painful to create any UI. I prefer to play with Kotlin and so on versus to learn so much legacy code of 10 years. So this thing you don't need to learn. A bit of knowledge of Kotlin and Swift at some point might be useful, but definitely not when you're starting.
I mean, it's also not required, right? I mean, you can still build an app without knowing those languages. Yeah. It also has to be said that obviously you definitely don't need to know those languages if you're doing web or desktop, because they have their different environments. So just to be clear. Yeah. Okay, I think let's open up. Someone said, what is your setup for VS Code, IntelliJ, plugins, themes, etc.? I mean, that's
lots of extensions.
That's an open question, right?
Yeah, we could be here all day.
What do you like on a sandwich?
There have been many videos on this, though. If you just Google for that, you'll find my favorite setup is these 9 extensions. My favorite setup is these 4 extensions. Yeah. No, it's never 4, but 14. So check those out. There's a lot of videos already.
Now there are at least 3 that I would recommend for sure. I think we can all agree on Flutter Enhancement Suite.
Well, you have.
Yeah, for IntelliJ and Android Studio. Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
And then rainbow brackets.
Oh yeah,
Yep.
those are
Oh
fun.
yeah.
Okay. The other one, I don't know if there's an equivalent for VS Code, but it's called string manipulation. And it's one that I found, in essence, if you take 100 lines and you put all zeros and then you highlight them all with a vertical highlight and you tell it to create a sequence and you can tell it what to create the increment by, it'll go from 0 to 100 like that.
It's like having
And
Excel.
it'll do all kinds of other crazy
Yeah,
things.
bit of Excel, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
But it's in
one
IDE.
I really like is PubSpec. It automatically adds things to the PubSpec. PubSpec access, I think it is. So you can just type the name, and it goes out and gets the latest.
Like
Yes.
dependencies, and it automatically
Yes.
fills out the dependencies. Yeah, yeah.
And it gets the latest version, so it automatically puts that there too.
Oh, for
It's
packages,
really
yeah. So Flutter Enhancement Suite does that as well. It
Yeah.
will go look up on pub.dev the latest
Yeah.
package version, insert
Nice.
that into your
nice.
thing. I kind of
But
want
these are
to
not
show
the
how-
only ones by any stretch.
No, definitely not. Also, Nash built the snippets for VS Code, right? And there's another snippets library for IntelliJ, which are very handy for beginners.
Mhm.
I kind of want to do a quick thing. Hands up here in the chat. Who does VS Code? Who uses VS Code? Okay, and hands up IntelliJ or AES Studio, Android Studio.
I've invoked it once.
So it's pretty much 50-50. There you go. With this very small sample set. I'm just
There's
kind
no
of curious.
wrong way to do it.
There's no wrong. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
As I keep saying, pick your poison.
Yeah, VS Code is snappier and faster, but IntelliJ and Android Studio have some tooling that VS Code doesn't. Pick what you like.
VS Code's open source, though. Completely open source.
Yeah.
So I think we've had a question from the comments. I just want to. I've lost it now, so I can't bring it up on screen. But we've got hashtag 30 days of Flutter. How would you suggest one to learn Flutter properly? I know it's very easy to patch up a few apps in record time, but as you go deeper, it gets weird. Is there a path that could help?
Practice.
There is a special guest coming up who has mentioned something about possibly going into this.
Okay.
Stay tuned.
Okay.
They'll be here
Stay
soon.
tuned. Stay tuned. Stay with us. We have a few more
In
guests
fact,
coming on.
stay tuned. Yeah, it
Very
should
soon.
be very soon.
What else can we have here? What else do we
Well,
have here?
Can I
there's
do one more question? Can I do one question?
Go for it. Go for it.
So I got asked in Slack. So I'm now monitoring like 6 places for questions, by the way. It's getting
I
crazy.
don't know how you do this.
I was spending 45 minutes a day. Now I'm spending, thanks to Monday, I'm spending about an hour and a half a day answering questions, triaging, at least figure out if I can make a difference on it or not. But question from John Eckert, it just came in this morning, and I know he's watching. Hi, John. What about Flutter Web? Although we won't get much into that into the formal part of the program here. What about that in SEO? And what I've been told is that there are things called semantic markup, and it's basically made for like screen readers or voiceover for the mobile. If you provide the correct semantic markup, the odds are that the Google bot and the other bots will pick that stuff up and use that for SEO. That was it.
Okay. Good points, actually.
Yeah.
Okay.
By the way, do we have guests, or can I ask one question that I saw in the chat?
Go for it. One more question. Go for it.
So one person asked, that person is an Android developer and was asking if he should switch now to Flutter, or is Android and iOS dead? Any feedback?
I mean, you're asking the wrong audience, right? We're all going to be biased towards Flutter.
Yes,
I think.
right.
Nothing's dead. Nothing is ever dead.
It's never going to disappear, right? It's never that idea, that concept is the wrong concept, I think, right?
Yeah.
What's your opinions, Majid?
Sorry, I was following all the questions on Twitter. It's a lot of questions here. I'm trying to prioritize which one to ask, and
Too many screens.
I tell you what, let's bring on our next guests.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I'm
big guy.
gonna take some of us off the screen so we can fit everyone on.
I'll be back.
Say goodbye, everyone.
I'll be back.
Bye bye.
Hey guys.
So, Scott, please introduce our next guest.
Yes. Our next guest, the next man of mystery. Let's see here. You may have seen him on some of the videos, especially things such as The Boring Show. In fact, if I remember correctly, he's one of the people who helped start The Boring Show. Philip! Oh,
Hey.
and we caught him just as he was drinking coffee.
Hello.
Okay, that answers the question, do Googlers drink coffee?
Of course.
Hey,
Yeah.
was that a Flutter mug I saw there?
Yeah, it's a really good one. It's one of those that like keeps it warm. I really like it.
Very nice.
Yeah. I did
Where's the
actually. I'm sorry. Go. What?
I said, where's mine?
Yeah. Good question.
Many people ask this question actually.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't even know how I got it. So, but I'll figure it out. But yeah, The Boring Show. This is it's kind of my baby actually. Boring Show. I was trying to get something like that started when I was doing Dart and Flutter was still a new thing, and it didn't come out. And then Andrew really helped to get this out the door, and it's been been fun since then. It's kind of not the same now that we're all at home. It was much more fun
harder because it's easier to do with two people in the same room, right?
Yes, I guess because we probably have a lot of people that are watching this stream and don't know what The Boring Show is. So I'll let me introduce that. So Boring Show is basically two engineers sitting next to each other and trying to do something without any preparation at all. So it's mostly terrible. We do a lot of mistakes. We get into a lot of trouble. And then we hopefully back out of some of the trouble at least once in a while. And that is actually it's called Boring Show for a reason. It's kind of boring to watch, but it's for me, if I see someone else doing this, it's really important because I learn how they work and how they can get out of these troublesome things. And also, and that's also important, it kind of removes that, what do you call it? The syndrome, imposter syndrome. Yeah, because you see people that are sometimes like engineers on the Flutter team get into trouble as well. And so you don't feel like, oh, all these people know much more than I. No, they don't. We're all very much terrible at this. All right.
Well, I mean, it's pretty impossible to sort of memorize the entire API and all the interfaces and all the functions. I mean, you're going to need to go look these things up. I mean, it's not,
Yeah.
So I think we have a few questions. I did actually just see one here, and I just want to answer this. It came through on the chat. If I've lost it,
Maybe meanwhile I can ask a question. Philip, someone asked about Dart and Flutter, and so for beginner, when they want to start with Flutter, they want to know like how much they need to go in depth to Dart, and do they need to learn Dart like first and then go and learn Flutter, or how can they start like smoothly to learn Flutter? Can you just maybe elaborate?
I'll answer in an arc. So when I started programming a long time ago, it was in a different programming language. And I remember everyone learns differently, but I think most people just want to see their creation first. And then they have the motivation to go next, right? So I remember just basically playing around with that programming language, mostly to watch something come to life. And sure, I had zero idea of what I was doing. I remember I didn't even know about the if statement when I was starting programming. So it was pretty, pretty bare bones, my programs. And then I was really excited when I realized that if statement exists and I can actually have, logic in my app programs. But anyway, I think for Flutter that is the same deal. I know there are some ways to structure and like go through the basics of Dart, but I think for a total beginner, you should just go and try to put some pixels on the screen, whatever that screen is, and try to build something, do some code labs, of course, but also try to build something that you consider good and interesting. And then it's good to get back to like the basics and be like, oh, okay, so now I should learn how to do like classes, for example, in Dart, right? But don't start with that, because I think that's too boring and that's too academic, and you have a much bigger danger that at some point you'll be like, what's the point? I'll just stop learning. So yeah, I don't think you should go too deep into Dart. And Dart is, if you're familiar with other programming languages, I'm pretty sure you won't be that surprised by many things. Yeah, hope that
Very
answers
nice
the question.
Simon, you're muted. You know,
the phrase of the year. I was going to say, Majid, did you have some more beginner questions you want to go through?
Yes. Well, some beginners asking, like, when they start with Flutter, now they are facing like a lot of widgets and, you know, things that they need to go through. So they are asking like how they should prioritize learning these things, and, you know, what's your advice, tips, tricks, or anything that it can help them to, you know, pick stuff faster?
Yes, that's a related question. I think after you play around and put some pixels on the screen, I think it is good to at least go through the Dart language tour, which is a page on the Dart that kind of tells you a little bit more about how, like, what a good Dart program looks like and what it can do, what Dart can do for you. And there's definitely a lot of resources. Like, for example, the cookbook on Flutter Dev, I think, is underutilized. If you search for Flutter cookbook, you'll find a lot of little examples, like recipes of what to do when you need to do something. For later, don't do it now, but for later, I really recommend learning and like reading the Flutter Widget Catalog, which, again, if you do Flutter Widgets or Flutter Widget Catalog, you'll find it. And this is kind of boring at first, and I didn't do that. I was like, well, okay, I'll read some of those. You know, you learn about center and column and the basics, but at some point you realize, oh, I was trying to do this thing that it's already there. There's all these like fade transition and animated position and opacity, animated opacity, all these widgets that are already included in Flutter, that if you don't read the catalog, then you might not realize they are there, and you might be less productive because you're trying to recreate them. And sometimes you recreate them and they are less performant, for example, because of course you're a beginner, while the person who made the, I don't know, animated opacity is like one of the engineers of the Flutter team. So at some point, make a mental note and reminder to go through that list on flutter.dev and try to learn, basically cram the widgets, so you know that they're there.
I was going to say, another interesting way that I've gone about this myself, when it just occurred to me when I very first started Flutter, was to have some layout or something I'm trying to build. So can that make sense? Like, have a target. Because when you have a target, you can piece things together to get to that place, and you can learn along the way. But just trying out something in isolation, like what center does on its own, is not really very useful. Column on its own is not very useful. But when you can combine these widgets together, really shows the power of what Flutter can do. And if you have a destination, like a layout or design or something that you've picked up online, or you want to Mariano cloned WhatsApp and Uber and all these other app experiences that you saw, there's a great learning experience right there. So,
yeah. Where did you get your targets? Or, sorry, go ahead.
Oh, no, I was just going to say, as far as the widget catalog goes, that was a big help to me. But there's a category in there called basics. And it's great for a beginner to start there, because that will give you 85% of everything you're ever going to need, right? Maybe even 95. And then you can learn the rest of them as you come up, as you need something, then go look it up. But the widget catalog under basics.
I was going to say, another thing that just occurred to me that when I was learning a lot of the widget catalog, I kind of went through was you find one widget, and then when you open it up on api.flutter.dev, you go to find the widget in the API documentation, and it shows you other widgets that are related to this widget. So you can actually, from that point on, you can go to, for example, let's say animated opacity. You can see that it says it implements implicitly animated widget. So you go, what's that? Click on that, and it then shows you, oh, there's an animated padding, there's an animated container, there's all these other widgets that you never even heard of before, and you go click on the documentation and read up about them. So there's an interesting journey within the documentation you can follow to find related widgets.
Yes, and that's another thing that I think is a little, well, hopefully a good advantage of Flutter is that because everything is in Dart, even the engine, I mean, not the engine, but the Flutter SDK itself is in Dart, you can actually go and read what's going on. And sometimes it's kind of scary and it's like all very, advanced-y and stuff like that. But it's also almost always very well documented, as in like the comments read like a nice article with links. And as Simon says, that there's even sometimes embedded videos or like things to play with. So I came to this to Flutter with the assumption that, for example, on Android, you don't have that. Like at some point you hit the wall and then it's just garbage and you don't know what's happening and there's definitely no comments. There's no code even.
Do you know what's really funny? You just remind me, you get to that point of I'm just going to, that method sounds like it's the right method, or that function sounds like it's the right thing I should be calling. I'm going to try and see what happens.
Yeah. So do go to api.flutter.dev at some point, because I think you'll, if you have the same assumption as I had, you'll be surprised how well the engineers are documenting this stuff. Also, I wanted to say, because we're talking about the widget catalog, Andrew's and everyone's widget of the week series on YouTube, which I think is linked from the materials for 30 Days of Flutter. That's another good way to learn about many of the widgets, because it's a video and all of these videos are less than 2 minutes long. So yeah,
exactly.
There is a playlist on the official Flutter YouTube channel, which is referenced in the home screen of the Flutter community channel.
Yes.
And it's funny you mentioned the docs like that, because I remember 3 years ago mentioning that at that point the docs read like Flutter engineers writing for Flutter engineers, and then over the next 3 years, it's really changed into something I've never seen anywhere else. That this is plain English with links, as Philip said, to videos and articles. You've really got to check it out. This documentation is not like what you're used to.
Great. Can I ask another question then, Philip? We are talking about widgets, and in the last 3 days, some of our devs have started working with Flutter, and they faced stateless and stateful widgets. So they're wondering what they are exactly, and is there any more widgets, type of widgets, let's say, and when they should start stateless, using a stateless or a stateful widget. So maybe you should elaborate on that a bit.
Yeah, this is a good question. It's also really hard, but so there are only a few types of like the baseline widgets. There's also inherited widget, but the ones that you will be implementing the most are either stateless or stateful. And I think, to me, the best way to explain it is, so a widget is configuration. So I'm probably okay, I'll try it. So widget is basically, if you create a widget, that's just telling Flutter, hey, for example, I want a center widget, right? Or align widget is probably a better example. So I want an align widget. That itself, the widget itself, is just for Flutter to look at and be like, oh, so here's a align widget, and it says align to the right. So now in the app, I should make sure that everything below it is aligned to the right. Or text widget is one of the leaf widgets because that means it doesn't have anything below it, and it just says, write this text. But from your perspective, that's all you want to know. You only deal with widgets. But from the Flutter framework's perspective, it's like, oh, I need to render this, but because it can't on every frame like re-render everything, it has something called element, which is basically the internal representation of what you see on the screen actually. So your widget is just you're declaring that you want something somewhere, but element is that what Flutter works with, and if the element is animating in, then that's what the Flutter framework does. It's like working with those. There's also render objects. Let's not talk about that. But so for a stateless widget, that's basically saying like I have this and I will never really change it. The only way to change how the widget, my configuration object, looks like, or what it has, is to rebuild it from the top. So like a widget above changes something and I will rebuild that widget. The stateful widget means that I do have control, like it's more manual. I say, hey, this is a widget and it has a state, and that state is changing, and I want you to watch me as I change the state of the widget. I'm probably terrible at explaining this, but from the perspective of you as the developer, you get to decide: does this widget ever need to deal with its own changes, or is it something that will just be there, like text or a line? And if it's just there, then you should definitely use stateless because it's much easier to implement and it's also faster. But I mean, marginally. But stateful is really important if you have animations, if you want to do some, like, for example, the counter app is a stateful widget because it has a counter in it that is the state that is changing, and then it rebuilds every time. I don't think I made a good explanation there, but
I think you did. I think you did very well. I mean, it's a complex topic, and I was going to say that there is, if you go to api.flutter.dev, you can go look up any one of these names that you see in any of the documentation, stateful widget, stateless widget, and there's videos. The Widget of the Week videos are actually linked. There's a whole episode, Widgets 101, from Andrew Brogdon, right there on the Stateful Widgets page that you can go watch, and they'll talk you through some of these things. Maybe one a bit more of a succinctful way.
Yeah. I should have just said, like, go to YouTube and watch the video.
You never want to answer. It's when someone asks you a question directly, you don't want to sort of give them just read the docs, right? Because that's always going to be the answer, right? But I feel like there's a difference when you give someone an answer and try and explain it in a way that might help them directly. Yeah. Anyway, I think we have a few comments from the audience.
Yeah.
If you have comments, post them in the live chat under hashtag 30 Days of Flutter. We have this one. I'll read it out. Hashtag 30 Days of Flutter. I always end up getting Renderbox overflow error on using expanded widgets inside columns. Please tell me what I'm doing wrong. It's quite difficult to, solve these kind of things without seeing some code to see what you might be exactly doing wrong. But Scott's done a very nice article on columns and rows and solving these sorts of problems, which is in the Flutter.
Oh, no, that could take way too long. I'm not jumping in on Phillips.
No, I was just going to say that they can go to the Flutter community medium, right, where they can search these things and they can find links. But Philip, I mean, you must have experienced this kind of issue before.
All the time.
In overflow. I mean, what's your go-to solution to try first of all? I guess.
Well, so we now have very good tooling around this. So I would really recommend everyone to open DevTools, which some people don't even know exists. But if you are, for example, using IntelliJ, there's a little dot icon that you can click, and you get to DevTools, and then you can inspect. I mean, yeah, nowadays it's actually in the IntelliJ editor itself. You can inspect that, and there is a layout explorer, I think it's called. It's one of the tools inside DevTools, and it shows you exactly what's wrong. And you will often see that I think the Renderbox overflow is just basically you're trying to have an element that is larger than what you're putting it into. So typically you have like size, the screen's this size, and you have a column in it, and then you put into one child of the column, you put like a long text, and the text is longer than it's possible to render. And that's surprising because you're like, but like if I don't have it in a column, then text just wraps around. Why doesn't it just wrap around? And this is actually, again, that would be for a longer talk. But I'm
Constraints.
Yeah, but generally speaking, just wrapping it with expanded, the thing that is causing the overflow, if you wrap it with expanded or flex or something like that, that generally fixes the issue.
And I'm going to recommend one other thing. If you're nesting columns and rows, and you're using expanded and you still get an error, then normally the key is to set the cross axis to stretch, and that will also solve your overflow errors most of the time. General rule of thumb. Okay. Thank you, by the way, Philip. Difference between inheritance and mixins. That's a tough one, I guess. I mean, sorry, Philip, you don't mind if I just take a little bit of this?
Yeah, no, go. I don't want to talk the whole time. Yeah.
So I was going to say that you can go look up. This kind of a deep programming thing. And I won't go into it too far, but if you can look up, I think it's called the diamond problem. I think it is, if I remember right, for multiple inheritance. It revolves around this topic. Mixins allow us to, there we go. Mixins allow us to kind of solve that problem in a non-specific way. The order of the mixins actually denotes the inheritance chain as well. It gets very complicated. There's definitely a lot of information on the Dart-Lang website. So if you go look at, I think, dart.dev and the language tour, I think there's a few pages in there around mixins, and that will should give you more than enough information, more than I can explain right this second.
Right. I'll just say that inheritance is really useful, but at some point it starts getting really hard to think about and bad.
The times that I've had to deal with inheritance, especially in Android programming, where I don't want to call the superclass, but I need to somehow call that super method, but out of scope. So you end up having to do some weird referencing thing and like skip a level of the inheritance chain and do some other random things to walk around something. Inheritance is not always the right way. What we call composition, where you have private objects in your class that you reference, normally ends up being a better method, and then implementing an interface, and that gives you the full control about intercepting method calls in your method chain. Anyways, right.
So this is good topic. For example, if you're coming from like C# or some very very inheritance based language, then you might know about these problems of inheritance. And if you want to reuse some code between different classes, just look at Mixins and try to learn about them, because they might be the solution for you. If you don't really, I think you can be a very good Flutter developer without ever using Mixins, other than like the ticker provider Mixin, which is just saying with ticker provider, and
Yes.
that's it.
Well, I think using provided Mixins is quite straightforward in comparison to making your own Mixins, right?
Yeah.
So I had another one here, and I've just lost it. Oh yeah, this one. Here we go. So 30 days of Flutter. I use a Mac, and when I try to create a Flutter project in IntelliJ, it gives me an error message saying at least one platform must be selected. Do you have any advice or solution? I think I have an idea about this.
Go ahead.
So you don't have, if you don't have the iOS developer toolchain installed, that's called Xcode. So if you go to that, if you're on Mac, since you're on Mac, if you go to the App Store and open up and search for Xcode and install the developer tools, and there's also developer command line tools. If you don't have them installed, it won't highlight the iOS tick box in IntelliJ. Same goes for Android. It won't show you the Android option because you don't have the Android SDK installed. Same for web, iOS, Mac, desktop, and the other options. Now, the other options, which are web, Mac, Windows, Linux for the desktop environments, you have to enable those yourself. It's called Flutter config is the command. And if you type Flutter config -- help in the command line somewhere, that should give you the information about how to enable those different options. But again, you need to have the proper tooling installed. And if you do Flutter Doctor, it should tell you what you're missing and how to solve the problems.
Flutter Doctor, yes.
Yeah.
I don't know how can you run it from IntelliJ like with like clicking a button or something?
There is a terminal in the bottom.
You have a terminal, but you have to be in a project. So the best thing I'd say is just open up, just do in Mac, you can just do the global search and then do just type terminal and open it up.
Yeah.
If you type Flutter in your terminal and it's not working, you haven't installed Flutter properly, and maybe go back to the beginning of the installation and work your way through the steps again.
Right. But then Flutter space Doctor. Yes, go ahead.
Yeah.
Yep. We're about to wrap up, but we did promise the audience, just as you came on, Philip, that you were going to tell them in general for beginners what to learn when, kind of just as a vague curve, maybe where they should start for the basics and what direction they should move in from there.
Okay, I think so. First of all, I know that Flutter 30 Days of Flutter have like a good progression itself. So I think just like starting there is amazing. And when after the 30, yes, exactly this one. And after the first 30 days of Flutter, what do you want to do? I think is, well, have your own project and just like go and start implementing. And when you get to a wall, learn reach out to the community. Flutter is amazing in its community, so please do reach out. The people here, Humpday Q&A is running every weekend. Wednesday. There's Discord channels, everything. So please reach out. Don't feel ashamed or anything like that. And and have a project in mind. I think that's really important for any kind of technology that you're learning.
Fantastic.
So, do you have to head off now, Philip? Have you got something to attend to, or do you want to stick around?
I'll be around for Jay at least.
Okay.
Jay, where's Jay?
Hello, Jay. I think we have a Jay on the screen right now.
Hey,
Jay.
Welcome back.
I was listening in the background. Philip, you are much more useful on this stream than I am for helping everyone with their technical needs with Flutter.
I can link people to YouTube videos. That's my superpower.
So I'll tell you what, we're going to leave you both with the stage, and take it away.
Awesome. We're back. For those of you that where everyone left us, it's just you and me, Philip. I guess they are taking a break. Well, I guess for those that haven't seen yet, if you go check your Twitters, we've got something exciting up. If I can figure out how to share my screen, here we go. Bang! I hope everyone can see that. Go check your Twitter, share, sign up for updates. Super excited to see you all on March 3rd. Thanks for bringing me back in here for a quick hello. Philip, I hope we get to do more of these in the future. I'm just getting started with my learnings here on Flutter, but there's a lot that I think we could do to share the news with the community.
Yeah, absolutely. So do you want to say something about this thing that's on the screen now?
Yes, of course.
Is that it?
I mean, we're obviously stay tuned for more updates. We're super excited to be sharing. Let me show you my favorite part. These new dashes that we have coming up. Super cute. Can't even deal with the amount of cuteness here. We got cool 3D branding and like an awesome events overview. Come sign up for updates. There's a quick FAQ on the top for anyone that has any additional questions, but of course you can follow up with us. I think there's a Flutter Engage email there in the FAQ, but also, of course, Twitter will be your best stop for latest breaking news.
Yes. So to summarize, maybe I'm repeating something that's already been said 1,000 times, so stop me. But we generally have a Flutter event once in about a year where there's a bunch of people normally coming to one place. In this case, it's not going to happen, but it's online, and there's a bunch of new stuff that we can talk about, and there's generally a big release or something. So on 3rd of March, which is in about a month, in exactly a month, we'll have Flutter Engage, and you can sign up.
Exactly. Yeah. Sorry, I said that earlier when I came on, but for those that didn't join immediately when the stream first started, there's big event. We'll see you on March 3rd virtually. Everyone around the world. Everyone's invited.
You guys.
And they're back.
Yeah, we're back. Thank you. I'm really excited, I have to say. I was one of the.
What do you think of those? What do you think of those dashes?
So cute.
So cute. And I love the name, by the way. The name is very nice.
Awesome. Yeah.
We're so here's what I want everyone in the audience to do. I want you to go to Twitter and make a new hashtag trend. It's where do I get a dash? Hashtag where do I get a dash?
Oh, you're gonna start something.
That's the question of the year.
Oh no. You're gonna make our webpage crash. No.
You mean Google? Awesome. Cool. This is great, and I'm glad that we, this wasn't the only thing. Like me wasn't the only thing that people came here for. Because and I can't
we're
even
not disappointed.
Stateless versus stateful widgets, which is
Actually, the stream isn't over. There's a just to let everyone know, don't go just yet. Stream isn't over. We're going to be answering your questions from the comments, so keep them coming, and we'll see what we can get to. Yeah, definitely go sign up, everyone. Definitely, Flutter Engage.
Absolutely.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you for having you.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
See you soon.
See ya.
Thanks for coming.
Thank you, Jay. Thank you, Flip.
So
yeah,
Simon and Scott, we have a new hashtag to promote right now, and that is Flutter Engage. So do not forget.
Hashtag. Oh, I'm gonna have to go find this now.
Yes.
Speaking of Twitter, I have an apology to put out there. I just saw it on Twitter. Apparently, I have broken Nilai's heart. Nilai, you are not my oldest friend in Flutter, but you're my best friend in Flutter. I hope that helps. I really do. But yes, I went looking for Engage on Twitter, and the first thing I saw is that I broke Nilai's heart.
Okay, so I think we're gonna see if we can keep the stream going for a little bit longer and answer all your questions. So we're gonna bring on some guests.
Yes.
Do we have? Let's see who we have here. I think we have
and also a little bit later, after the guests that are going to be answering Flutter questions, or after some of them, we also have someone coming in. Apparently, there is a new agency for Flutter developers to be able to look for. They are specializing in Flutter contractors. So we'll be talking to someone from there also. Don't leave. But in the meantime,
Thomas, welcome to the stream. Thomas.
Hello, Thomas.
Hey.
Hi. Nice to be here.
And do we have a few other people ready to come back into the stream?
Yes.
I think we do.
Don't everyone jump at once.
Don't everyone jump at once. Randall, welcome back.
Welcome back, Randall.
And we have Atomic.
Muted.
Welcome back.
And we're going to pop the button off the screen so we can get some more room on. There we go.
Yeah, more room.
So guys, what did you think about the new news, the Flutter Engage event?
Awesome.
Yeah, awesome.
I signed up.
Absolutely.
I mean, I don't know anything yet, but I'm super engaged.
Yeah.
I really want to know what's going to happen. I'm just so excited now. Okay. I think we have a few more guests joining us. I think we have Salih. Salih, are you with us? Hello, there he is.
Hello.
Hey.
Welcome.
Yeah, I just wanted to hijack the live stream and want to help you guys. How's everyone doing?
Oh, great.
Doing great, man.
great.
How you been, bro?
Yeah, it's really amazing. I'm really hyped for Flutter Engage. I'm really excited to see what we are going to hear about and what will be the announcements. So let's see how it goes.
And we have a Griven Chip. Welcome back to the stream.
Hey.
Hello. Welcome back.
Nice to see you again.
You too.
So I'm going to see if we can get through some of these questions. So I'm just going to see what we have in the comments here. I'm way back here, so I'm gonna go. God, they're coming in thick and fast now.
It's like drinking from the fire hose.
Best technique for dynamic text scaling. Anyone want to grab that one?
There's a package called auto text sizing or something like auto text, whatever. And what it does is actually relays it out over and over again until it fits exactly right, which is really, really nice. Auto text scaling, I think that's it. But that's in the pub if you're looking for it. Just type auto text in the search. It'll find it.
Cool.
I'm assuming they mean Navigator 2.0. Root 2.0 is complicated. The question in which I should choose modular Flutter or Root 2.0 for root management. I'm assuming they mean Navigator 2.0. Well, I did a talk on Navigator, so you can go watch that. And Dominic's done. Hang on a minute. We have a Dominic here. Hang on. He's joining the stream. Yeah, Dominic, just answer this question.
Hi there. Yeah, we all have, I think, had some talks about Navigator 2.0.
I'm right in thinking that it gives more power to developers. That makes it a bit more complicated and hard to understand. But it doesn't mean you have to do it with Navigator 2.0. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, correct. Yeah. So the Navigator 2.0, especially at the beginning, seems really complex. There's a lot of API surface to comprehend, and there's a lot of modules that you can tweak around. And actually, this is more for the power users of Flutter if you want to make some really custom navigation. But the nice point is that there is like this intermediate approach to Navigator 2.0, which is this page API or pages API, where you actually don't have to understand the router, and still you can have just some fun with so-called pages that this new approach brings, so that you don't have to explicitly create routes to navigate between screens in your app.
I was talking to someone the other day, and they were asking me, well, why can't they just have their global app state, and then based on their global app state, choose what widget to show? And I said, sure, have a stream builder. Have a future. You can have a stream builder, have it listen to a stream, and then once your state changes, change what widget you show on the screen. But you obviously just lose the routes. You lose your animations. You lose. You would have to do that all yourself, right? So, I mean, that's essentially what the Navigator is. It's just, it's not necessarily a stack, but it acts like a stack with these screens on top of each other, and it manages the transitions for you. Okay.
And there are also, of course, some bugs with that, or like things that you wouldn't expect, especially if you just use Navigator 2.0 pages. So if you just put just like nested navigator into your material app, and inside of that you want to just handle this stack of pages, let's say with provider or with block or with even like state of a widget. Then, for instance, there are some issues with back button. Not sure if it's fixed already, but like you had to actually capture this back button and pass it to this nested navigator to handle that.
I think they might be resolved that bug now, right?
Yeah, but again, there is an issue with returning values from routes, so you have to have some other way to get this value back when you, for instance, pop with a result. Of course, you can capture this in this callback in the navigator. So this new navigator has this callback on pop page, so we can capture the result there and pass it around. But then you just lose this convenience that you had with previous navigator, where you could just await the route and get the result back and don't worry about anything else.
So who wants to take the next question now? I guess you guys have seen it on the screen. Anyone want to?
It's a pretty advanced question. Do we want to get into that right now?
I was going to say, though, there is one caveat to most people when they talk about future building stream builder, and that is don't call a function that always returns a new stream or a new feature in your build method.
Yeah,
it's always the very first mistake everyone makes. In your init state for your stateful widget, save your future or save your stream into your local state, and then use that variable in your build method. Because if your build method gets called multiple times, you return a new stream every time. You start loading all new widgets every single time. By using the same stream, your state has not changed, and therefore it will maintain this current stream that you have. Okay.
And the quick answer for the question, anyway, we can address it, which is go look in the stream protocol. There is a transforming ability, so you can turn the stream into a different stream, and that's what you put your stream builder on.
Simon, I just saw one question that was asked: is Flutter only a UI toolkit, or can we build complete apps with it? I think that's an important one.
Yeah, I mean, we called it. I mean, that's right. I mean, we call it a UI toolkit, but it's part of Flutter is not just this sort of front end. We also have Dart and a lot of other things behind the scenes. You can make network calls. You can write files to disk. You can call your operating system APIs. You've got everything's accessible. You can build full apps with it.
We have a lot
you just can't access the hardware directly. Pretty much. Just about anything else, you're good to go.
You can use, and then even if you did want to do that, you can still do that, but through FFI, which is the other way. Which I know Thomas has been working with recently.
Okay.
Way out there, not beginners.
Folks, 30 days of Flutter, beginners. Okay.
And you have a huge ecosystem with packages that you can use for it to building when you have to build your app. So it's really, you can get everything you need.
Yeah, to add on to what Thomas is saying, if you just go to pub.dev, take a look around, you will find a package for just about anything you want to be able to do.
Except there's one thing, there was a question a little bit earlier, and they're talking about something that they can't do. And they're wondering why you cannot provide a color to a container when it already has a border around it. I'm sorry, when it does have a border around it. And the reason for that is that if you have a container and you just add a color to it, normally that's fine. But to put a border on it, you have to have a decoration, and the decoration then takes over the color function. So you can't assign the color twice. It's not just going to, one of the things that they could have done is they could have had it ignore the container's color and then just use the one in the decoration. But instead, they decided to tell you that they're conflicting. And you've got to get rid of either the color or the decoration. But if you get rid of the decoration, then there goes your border.
Okay.
Okay.
Simon, can I ask? There was a really interesting question. One person was complaining that that person application is really laggy. How to improve the performance? And I want to say something really important. If you are compiling your Flutter application and the hot restart and reload work, it's really much slower than when you would be compiling for the release version. So if you are using your Flutter and why is it so slow? Don't worry, because all the tools that are running in the background that allow you to use hot restart, slow down Flutter application in an enormous way. So if you have problems with performance, first check if you're compiling for the release, the final version.
So you can
just look for a little debug banner. If it says debug, it might be slow.
You can do Flutter run -- release, and you can also do Flutter build APK, and then you can install the APK onto your device. But that's like Android, for example, or iOS and specifics. But Flutter run -- release the command should do that for you. This is a little one. I mean, when can we expect a scroll bar in Flutter Web? Well, you can use the current scroll bar widget. It's already there.
Yeah.
I think the problem
there's a widget for that.
There's a widget for that. That age-old motto, right?
Yeah. That's a 3-year-old joke, folks.
Yeah.
So, in fact, if you go to flutterhackathon.com, you'll see a nice scroll bar on the side there that we put onto the web page. What you need to do is put your content into a single child scroll view, and then put a scroll bar around the single child scroll view. Now your whole page will scroll, and you'll have a scroll bar on the screen. And if you keep looking at the documentation, you can make it always visible. You can do all these other fun things that change the color and all this for another time, of course.
And I think the problem, I have the same problem because people want to drag the scroll bar. And currently you don't drag the scroll bar. So maybe
there are. I will say that you can build your own widget to do that. That is possible, although not a beginner topic. However, there are actually packages. I think it's called Draggable Scroll Bar. There's a package in pub.dev. So if you're ever looking, if you can't find something in the framework that does what you want, go look at pub.dev and see if there's something that does what you want for some.
There are so many things in pub.
I just saw another interesting one. Is set state bad? And I think this is actually a really interesting one because in the beginning you see the examples with set state, and then you see things like stream builders, like future builders, and all this stuff. And what most people don't know is if you look into the implementation of them, they all do a set state at some point.
I think I will just put one caveat on that and say, what you don't want to do is start an animation and say add listener and then do set state in the listener, because then you're rebuilding all of your entire widget structure at that point. Yeah. So set state inherently isn't bad itself, but it's where you use the set state. So if you use set state at the very top of your application, so like your home screen and all the widgets inside, you might end up rebuilding your entire widget tree. So you normally want to resolve your set state to just the area of the UI that you're changing, if at all possible. And that's kind of where value notifying other things like Thomas has built a, what was it, Get It, and a few other, sorry?
And the Get It Mixin.
And the Get It Mixin, yeah, which can help with those kind of things. But there's many state management solutions out there. We're not going to discuss them now.
This is almost a religious issue at this point.
Yeah. It's not happening. It's not happening today.
A quick joke. I was putting together a talk in Chicago, and it was going over some state management solutions. I finished the talk at 1 a.m. the night before. So I get up at 8. I go to jump in the shower. I check Slack. And there they are talking about how MobX is coming to Flutter. And I'm like, I'm not even in the Uber yet, and my talk is deprecated. This is the state of state management in Flutter.
And take a look at Riverpod.
I'm going to give... right.
Somebody kick Randall.
30 days of Flutter. Sometimes hot reload doesn't work for me. What I might be doing wrong. I would say one thing: hot reload works over a network connection to your device or to your browser or to whatever you're debugging against. So maybe you have a firewall. Maybe you have a firewall that's blocking hot reload from working. It's definitely a possibility. Guys, any other suggestions?
When in doubt,
reboot since you installed. Turn it off and on again.
I can fill this out a little bit, because what hot reload is actually doing is it has to go through and basically recreate the stack that you currently have and all the states that you currently have. It has to leave those alone so that it can come back from the same state. And there are times, and it even says this in the docs about hot reload, it won't reset globals It won't reset anything that you have in main. It builds from main downward in order to make it stay. And also, if you change the number of widgets, it also gets really messed up. So at that point, hot restart. That's all you can do.
Thank you. All right. What other questions do we have here?
Hey, folks, I need to drop off. Take care and have a good time with all the questions.
Thank you for coming. Do we have? Let's see what other questions we have.
The hot reload for the web is an interesting question.
Yeah, that's I figure it. Go ahead, Randall.
You can't yet. The problem is that
I don't know that you will ever be able to, will you?
Right. Well, we don't know that. We don't know that.
Web.
But if you want to use a resizable window to test various amounts of responsiveness in your app, can't really use the web if you want to be able to do hot reload. But what you can use is the desktop ones, the desktop GUIs, like for Linux, Macs, and Windows.
Yeah,
they're resizable and they're hot reloadable. It's the best of everything.
Yep. And it's fun.
Well, and in general, when you're trying to do Flutter Web, though, what I've noticed is basically if you just restart the server in the IDE and then refresh, but you can't just hit hot reload on your keyboard and have it instantly pop in your browser. You're going to have to save what you've got in the IDE and then go over and refresh your browser.
I mean, I also want to add that as a person who had suffered the long waiting times of Android for a long time, the hot restart is way more acceptable. Like waiting like 2-3 seconds or 4 seconds for a freshly new build of the app is highly acceptable. So it's just a matter of patience, I would say. Yeah, having your state over there and keep where you left off is nice. But at the same time, if you want to have the web working for you, I think it is some kind of a compromise that you need to be able to make in iOS.
Yeah. So the main reason with that is we're not re-downloading dependencies every time is what that really comes down to. We're not redoing a Gradle build.
Okay, I've got this question. I do want to answer this one. Hashtag 30 days of Flutter. Is there scope for Flutter in backend development? Not Flutter, but Dart. So you can definitely write the backend of your server. Like if you want to write a server, there's a HTTP package that contains a server, and you can just start one up in your main method, list it on a port, and start serving requests. Make a REST API. In fact, there's a package called Shelf, which is made by the Dart team, which gives you a wrapper around HTTP and does a lot of stuff for you. There's also several other, I think it was Aqueduct, I can't remember,
Aqueduct and Ancient
Aqueduct, that's the one. Yeah, and there's a few other packages out there that offer this kind of capability that make it, frameworks that make it easier to do back-end Dart, and it's highly acceptable. Yeah, for sure.
Also, in general, Flutter can interact with any backend that has a REST or GraphQL or gRPC. So it's really not depending that your backend is written in Dart. So you're very flexible.
I've been told that the pub.dev and dartpad.dev are actually running Dart on the backend.
Yeah.
Yeah, in fact, I think there, if you check out the Flutter, Dartlang repo, you'll find they actually have packages for pub.dev. The entire source code is all open source for all of the products to do with Dart and Flutter.
Get back to work. Thanks for having me, everyone.
Thanks for having. Thank you. We have another question. What's the difference between list view, a row, a column, and a single child scroll view? Who wants to take this one? Someone else can talk.
Please.
Tomek?
Oh,
Silly?
Okay. I mean, I can, there's one. I will start off, then I will also give it
back. You can each take a widget.
Yeah. So I will just start off with something that in the boring show that actually Philip talked about. There's an episode that they are talking about how they render list views. So I started instantly with list view. Sorry, Tomek. So with the list view, the idea is, first of all, it is scrollable. Row and column is not scrollable in the direction, in the axis that you define. But list view is scrollable in the direction that you want. That means that if you have more items than your screen can fit in, you can just find the item that you need by scrolling in the axis that you define. Another good thing about list view is it is drawing your widgets more performantly. What it does is it draws out in the pixels or in the screen that you have, and it also has 200 pixels of from top or bottom or left or right according to the axis you have. And what it does is it draws that part as well just for accessibility reasons. So it is sort of making your app acting more performant in the list view that you use. So this is one point I can make. And I will hand it off to Tomek now.
Thank you, Zach. So basically, like the easiest is row and column. If the items inside of it will be less than screen, and you're certain that it will be less than screen, because if it will be bigger than the screen, there will be these squiggly lines and there will be an error. So if that next, if you need it to be bigger than screen and scrollable, then you would put a row and column inside of single scroll, child scroll view, and at that point it will be scrollable. There won't be those lines. But the problem is if too big, it will it's not performant, because everything that is not visible on the screen still will be created. And the best thing is list, because it's both scrollable and the items that are not yet visible are not drawn, are not basically in the memory. So you can have infinite list at that point, infinite list at that point. So if you want a really simple thing, go with row, then row in single child scroll view, and then the most advanced is list view, and then slivers. But that's different stuff.
Okay. Thank you very much, guys.
Actually,
Me too.
You want to put some points in? Go for it.
Well, I meant the question.
The question, right? Yeah.
Me too.
The red screen of death.
Yeah, if you see the red screen, what you're probably missing is there's a debug panel somewhere in your IDE, and that will give you way more information, hopefully direct you to the line of code that has the problem. It's called a stack trace somewhere in there. Yeah. But the actual red screen is just there to as a placeholder, if you will. Okay.
Ahmed wanted to say something, then he just left.
I think his connection dropped. So we'll continue. I have seen a few questions popping by about the learning journey. Today's is going to specifically be about question and answers, but in the follow-up over the month, we're going to try and bring you more and more content, and there'll be more content next week. The only reason this is slightly different is because we are so close to the Monday's episode. Okay, so this is just going to be question and answers today. If you want more about learning materials, I can only suggest that you follow the extra resources that were provided in the link for the event. There is some onward journeys you can take learning about constraints and advanced layout problems. He's back.
Ahmed.
Hello, everyone. Hi, Saleh.
Hey, welcome back.
Sorry, I have bad internet connection today. I don't know if you can hear me. Okay. There is three important questions asked in Arabic or from Arabic source.
Please.
One of them, he was asking what I should do during this month because he don't know anything about Flutter. So I already posted on YouTube channel the link for Flutter Study Jam, 6 hours of learning. Just finish it and you will be able to build your first application. The second important question was what's the best state management solution, or what does we mean about state management? I already recorded full 1 hour video, state management from zero to hero. I am explaining what does we mean about state and what's available. I talked about provider, block, and all other solution available. Everything in Arabic. Sorry.
I listen to these.
I am doing all this content in Arabic. Yes. The third question asked about the Flutter roadmap. There is a link. I already just created it now for inside our Facebook group, Flutter Egypt. Flutter Arabic, Flutter-Arabic roadmap. You will find full details roadmap for all videos, even paid courses and any other important videos. You will find everything in Arabic. Sorry, I'll translate that for a second. الكلام ده كله يا جماعة للناس اللي بيسألوا على المحتوى العربي. This for people who are asking about Arabic content and Arabic videos and from where they should start. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you very much. That's very helpful.
Thank you, Ron.
I have to leave you for a moment.
Oh, goodbye, Thomas.
And actually, I just wanted to throw this out there real quick. I'm putting also into the YouTube stream. I had copied over a couple of things that Ahmed had put. And also there's one more. Ahmed, if you could let them know about Rauf's channel and his work in Dart. I am putting the link to it in there right now.
So, should I carry on with some questions here?
I am muted, sorry. Actually, Rauf, you remembered me. Let me bring the link. Rauf did a great job explaining Dart and then explaining Flutter with real-world examples. Also, there is another guy from Alexandria. He created a full Flutter e-commerce application, and he explaining that. And we never forget our friend Pawan Kumar, MTech Varial. Pawan did a great job explaining Dart and Flutter, and the most important thing, real life application. How to create WhatsApp clone, Instagram, etc. So Pawan channel also a very good source to start learning Flutter, and you will find, I think he already started a new series or a new playlist since yesterday in Hindi, I think.
You can find that as MTech Viral in YouTube.
Yes.
MTECHVIRAL.
I think he was in the chat. I saw him today. So if he's here, maybe he can just wave so people can just directly subscribe to the channel.
And that's it. And if you're not used to things being truly international, welcome to Flutter.
Yeah.
So Simon, next question.
I've temporarily lost it, but I was seeing quite a few things about what is a learning journey, where can they find materials. I've put the link to the and I'll put the banner on screen of the link that you can go to about the event. I believe you have to be signed up. I'm not too certain actually, but there is a content resources, and from the content resources section, there's a whole journey of learning materials that you can go through for week 1. And we'll be updating that as we go through the month.
Cool.
So,
so you had one up there about, I believe, Apple Watch and TV.
Oh, yes. So someone was asking, can they do Android apps and TV apps? And the answer is yes, you can. So Android apps and Android TV apps, they're just Android apps.
Android Watch, but yeah, where?
So Android Watch as well. In fact, I have a watch right here that I've built apps on.
Wow.
So, yeah, no, it's all possible. You're not limited in any way.
Well, screen size. Okay.
Scroll, baby, scroll.
Right.
Hey, I was going to say, if we take a break from the technical for just a moment here, I do believe we've had a lady slip into backstage.
And Chloe.
Yes, something that I've kind of been looking forward to having in Flutter for a long time is finally here. We have Chloe with High Digital. And hello. Chloe, you are running a very special company. Can you tell us about High Digital and what you do for Flutter?
Yeah, sure. I'm really excited to come on here with you guys, actually. So thanks for having me. So in terms of what we do at High Digital, we're a startup. We're female founded, and we have got fully on board with Flutter from day one, basically. So our whole aim is to help companies build Flutter teams help create more opportunities within Flutter for developers, and help as many developers around the globe to secure new roles and to take the next step in their career. So that's kind of what we're all focused on. And in terms of the way we work, we value ourselves on being really boutique, really transparent, and really working out what it is that is interesting you guys at the moment, and learning from that, and then being able to go out and actually secure roles for you guys. So yeah.
Thank you. Oh, you there, Scott?
Appreciate it. It's always really nice to know that when we're out there talking to recruiters and such, a lot of times we have to try to explain to them what Flutter is and how it's different. It's just very nice to know that we have now our own people who understand us.
Yeah, you know what? It's so funny because I get that all the time. I reach out to so many developers. Obviously, I speak to hundreds of developers on a daily basis. And they all say, oh my God, thank you so much for not approaching me with a React Native role or a native role. I'm really looking for a Flutter opportunity at the moment. And I think we're just really excited to see how the community grows this year. I think 2021 is going to be a really big year for Flutter. And I mean, we work with companies that are like 5-10 people to scale ups to global corporations. So the opportunities are just keeping on growing at the minute. Obviously, we had a bit of a slowdown with the pandemic and everything, all the craziness that was going on. But it's definitely picking back up, and yeah, we're really excited to see what happens.
Very cool. All right, so that's High Digital.
That's right.
Go ahead.
I wanted to ask a question that probably a lot of people has in their minds, because right now people are embarking to a new journey in a new field. So most likely the question is, how are the job opportunities for Flutter developers? Because you are in the position to see and have an overview about the market, like how is the increasing level? Because for example, I know about my market, but in general, you have an overview about Europe. So it would be really nice for, I think, people to hear about it.
Yeah, I mean, from my perspective, there's definitely Flutter hubs, if you like, in terms of locations that we work across Europe and across the US. And I think the pandemic has actually made it a lot more accessible for people that maybe aren't in them hubs to secure roles, because obviously all of these companies are going remote now, and they're seeing the benefit of going remote and losing the offices and losing the ties. So for people looking to get into those Flutter Hub roles, but maybe not wanting to relocate or not being able to relocate, there's definitely a lot more opportunities now. And I've seen that this year, even just through January, when new roles are coming up, they don't even consider having people on site, for the foreseeable future. So there's definitely a lot more opportunities.
So you don't have to move to Berlin anymore.
Yeah, exactly.
I think Nilay mentioned on Monday that there was 5,000 job openings to do with Flutter on LinkedIn at the moment. And I mean, there's also was it flutterjobs.info from Natalie Mass Hooper built that together, and there's also flutterjobs.com as well, which is a separate website. So there's lots of opportunities to get work in Flutter.
Yeah, and that's I know it's a little bit of a departure from our normal approach here, but let's face it, folks, learning to do this doesn't help a lot if you can't pay the bills, if you don't know where to go get paid to do it.
Yeah,
there's also
So,
quite a few jobs being listed in the Flutter Facebook groups. I'm seeing job posting there like at least twice or 3 times a day. Nice. In every one of the 22 channels they have.
Yeah,
how do
really.
I read all those?
Well, hey, Chloe, appreciate you coming out and appreciate everything that you're doing for us out there. You really do.
Yeah, thanks so much. And I mean, I'm always happy to have conversations with anybody about how the market's looking, or if anyone wants advice on getting the first Flutter job or one of many Flutter jobs. Yeah, I'm happy for anyone to reach out.
What is your website?
So our website is highdigital.io.
HiDigital.io.
So you can reach us there, or you can reach me on Twitter at Chloe_HiDigital.
All right, nice to see you.
That's
Cool.
great.
Thanks, guys.
Okay, see you again soon. Bye.
I think we have a few more questions to get through. I think, yeah, we'll get a few more questions before we call it a close. I think we've got a bit more time. Can I upload a Flutter web project to normal cPanel hosting, or do I need better web hosting for it? Who wants to take this?
It's just
I can actually take this because I answered actually this question. Sorry, go ahead, Randall.
No, I said everything I was going to say, which is it's just static pages. You can put them anywhere, really. I mean, we have examples in the documentation about putting it on the Google Cloud stuff, the whatever their
cloud-based hosting.
Yeah, cloud-based hosting. I put mine recently on just for grins on something offered free web hosting. You have to upload a zip file and you get it, and it's there. And there's ways of doing it on GitHub hosting, on CodeMagic. I mean, lots of places that you can do CI/CD and generate your Flutter web, which is really nice.
Got one more here.
I'm gonna jump off now before starting to do new one, and I hope to see you all in the next update Q&A as well. Take care, everyone. Bye-bye.
Hey, it's good seeing you again. Come around more often.
So we have one more. How to start developing gaming app using Flutter. There is what we got: Flare, Rive. There's a couple of other packages that would help. I mean, Flutter itself. I would probably say if you want to, as a beginner, if you're a beginner and you want to start building a game, just start moving some widgets around. Make that as your first opportunity. Make a stack, use a positioned, and use set state to move the widgets around. And you can easily make, you press up, down, left, right, or wherever it is, and control that character, that box. Just have it as a box to begin with, and then you can start thinking about putting graphics in and sounds and all this fun stuff. But yeah, there's packages out there. Like, I think Flare. I think I said Flare. Flare is one of those ones that there's also was it Sprite 2D Sprite 2D? There's another package. There's a long time package, and these all they do all just use the standard Flutter stuff, but they all just give you the extra framework and layer to build games, and you're perfectly fine to build games in Flutter. In fact, I built emulators in Flutter. So
yeah. Best for 2D games, because the Flutter framework is basically 2D oriented.
Yeah,
but 2D. These other applications that we talked about a moment ago, these other frameworks like Rive and the other one I just lost Flare are basically using the same 2D drawing primitives, but they bring their 3D math into it ahead of it and are drawing on the 2D canvases.
Yeah, they're still essentially drawing 2D though, right? I mean, they're just doing 2D matrix transformations. There is some package coming up from the community by Thomas, who was in here earlier, to do with OpenGL and putting 3D into your 3D scenes into your UI.
Wow!
So that's also an interesting stuff.
And one other quick point too: when you're moving stuff around like that and wanting to make a game, sooner or later you're going to want to animate the size of it. And that's where you can run into a stumbling block if you try to use the animated size widget, because it doesn't work the way you think it would. What ends up happening is the animated size widget on the very first frame will instantly make your new widget to be the new size, and then it will animate the window that you look through to see it. Now, that's not going to make any difference. Well, what's going to end up happening actually is if you have a small widget and it pops large, what you'll see is the middle of it, a small piece, and then it will reveal. So if you had a man and it popped large, you would see the belly, the middle, and then it would reveal the rest of the man. The man would not grow larger. If you want to do that, put it in a container and use animated container. So
I might have got mixed up between Flare and Flame, but apparently Flame is another package for games. So I'll put that on the screen.
Nice.
That's it. You're
was
fired.
Another question. Such another interesting question here: how to deploy mobile application code to desktop or web, if possible. It's certainly possible if you built it with Flutter.
Yes. That's
so. The command you're looking for is in your terminal in your command line. Type in flutter config, and then dash space dash dash Flutter space config space dash dash help, and you'll get a list of all these commands, and some of them are like enable desktop Linux, enable desktop Mac and Windows. The Mac one needs if you're on Mac, you can't compile Mac desktops on Windows, for example. You have to be on the system that you want to compile for. Mac can, however, compile for Linux, and it can compile for Windows, I think. Not yet. No, I think it's still early. I'm not sure. Tomic? We're not sure, but I think there's something there. I do know, however, if you are on Windows, to compile Windows apps, you need to have Microsoft Visual Studio installed, and there is a community edition that you can install.
Yeah.
But yes, just once you've done that, you do Flutter create dot in your project folder, and it will add the folder for Windows. And once you've enabled it, you'll add the folder for Windows. Hit play, and you'll be, if you're on Windows, it'll play the Windows app. It's just straightforward. Okay. Do we have any more questions here? Oh, Thomas is back.
Yeah, I'm back.
Thomas. Here's one we hear quite often, and I'd like to just bring this up. And it's Robert. I know Robert. Yes, long time Robert. Any guidance on how to convince a development team to move from native to Flutter? Anything, guys?
I actually have done that.
Go for it, Majid. This is all yours. Hang on.
Yeah.
The stage is yours.
I have done that. Oh, wow. All right. So, yeah, actually,
I was taking advantage of that.
About a year and a half ago, so in a company that I worked, we've been evaluating different, frameworks and technology to go for it. And we definitely had like an Android team and iOS team to develop our application. So, well, as a big fan of Flutter, I pitched to Flutter several times and reached out. And the company is quite big. It's like an enterprise company, and things goes a little bit slow. And what I did several things. So I'm going to just say them point by point. Hopefully it can be helpful. First thing I did, I started to internally run several meetups and just talk about Flutter, what it is. And I show demos. I built apps, same views that we had in our native apps. And I built it. And I also live coded right on the screen. Like in 30 minutes, I created the things that we had. And I know that developers struggle to build it. So I did that.
Did the jaws just drop?
Yes. To be honest, I remember like one of our Android developers said, wow, like when you change, it just changed on the screen. I said, yes, of course.
Hot reload gets every time. Hot reload just wins every game on that one.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But another thing
was always supposed to be.
Yeah.
Yes. Another thing that I also did was, well, at that point, I couldn't convince yet. Still, there was a lot of question. I said that, okay, you know what we can do? I can run a hackathon, like a day of hackathon. I invite you, iOS and Android developer, to join me. Before we start, I walk you through to the, basic of Flutter and Dart. And then after that, we can build a couple of our pages, which we have done already in our Android and iOS app. And in a hackathon, we managed to create like a lot of screens that they could create maybe in a week or a month, So, and it was so interesting at that point for them. And this was these 2 points, I think, was very, very important. And one aspect of these convincing was talking to the business part of the, company, because it's not all about developers. Sometimes business is holding you back. So they said, "Oh, what is the value? Why we should do that?" And when I did that, the real demos and things like that, I invited business lane of the company. I said, okay, sit here. You see, I'm going to deliver something to you in 30 minutes, which you are asking to do in weeks. And, so these things, I think showing this stuff and the performance of the app afterwards, it just helped quite a lot.
From the early days, I think me and Scott were giving advice back in 2018 at Joy-Con London. We were giving this advice to the Android developers. We're literally coming up to our booth and saying, how can I convince my company to use Flutter? And our advice was simply really just recreate, record how long it took you to recreate like one section or one screen of your app, you know, in Flutter, and show it to them and tell them it took me this long, you know, and it would take this long to sort of write tests for it or make it proper. But you know, it took this long to get this far, and it would really make. It's like the proof, as you said, like as you showed it to them, the proof really makes the difference.
It's also important to realize that the cross-platform nature of Flutter, being both on iOS and Android, gets too many people wound up against React Native. We have React Native already. We have Xamarin already. What's important about Flutter is hardly the fact that it's cross-platform. You get hot reload up there. You get good tooling. You get a bunch of other stuff up there. And I tell people, if all you're building is Android apps, use Flutter. If all you're building is iOS apps, use Flutter, because the experience you'll have compared to the native, the vendor-provided building tools will be night and day.
I think that leads us on to the next
caveat there. Well, one quick little caveat there. You're talking about building something and just dropping it in front of people. Funny story. There's a guy that Simon and I know, who shall not be named, who was a manager of an Android team at a company that shall not be named. But long story short, this company had another team struggling to build one component. And this was months. Well, finally, our friend got fed up, threw up his hands, stormed off into his office, knocked it out in Flutter in 2 hours, dropped it on a desk. He did not make friends. Watch out how you present this, okay? Because if you make people look stupid, they're not going to want to come.
Well, you want to obviously take away your tech lead or your CTO to one side and then talk to them and show them what you've done. You know. Anyway, in Flutter. Sorry.
And related, before we leave this area, a related question I saw was when it is better to develop an app in Kotlin, an Android app, and when in Flutter.
Flutter.
You know what? The thing is, everyone. Some people have asked me that in the past, and to be honest, I wouldn't do it. I mean, after 3 years now doing things in Flutter, I wouldn't choose anything other than Flutter, because the thing is, you're not getting any disadvantages. And what I mean by that is anything you can already do in Kotlin, you can still do in Flutter, because you can always call over a platform, a method channel to communicate and do those native things. So if there's some library, some piece of code you already have, you could communicate with it and do something like that. It's not going to be, don't get me wrong, it depends on how you build it to how good that experience might be. But you're not limited to saying, I can't do it because something's in Kotlin, right? Or I have to do it in Kotlin because, there's no limit really.
Yeah.
Okay, so go on.
I would add, if you start a project and you check if necessary plugins are already available for the thing that you want to achieve, then it's a no-brainer. You will go for
I would also mention that if they have a REST API, it's a no-brainer as well. You just do your HTTP transactions.
For example, if you have you have to call some native libraries and where you have no plugin, you would have to do all yourself. Maybe then it can be better to use. But even then, you could. But even then, you could use an Android project and do the views in Flutter, for example.
Yeah, I was going to say you've got add to app, right? So we've seen this before. There's several big companies that have used add to app to replace sections of the app slowly with Flutter until the entire thing is done. So there's lots of ways of doing this. I mean, Flutter itself just acts as another view or panel inside of any of one of the platforms. So getting back to this question, what's on the screen. In Flutter, is there any way to achieve view model, live data, or room concept as we can do in Android? Well, in short, we have room. It's called more. It's room spelled backwards, M-O-O-R. And you can find that on pub.dev. The concept of live data and view model, these are just concepts. You can just make a class as a view model. There's nothing stopping you. Live data is just so live data was specifically made to solve not necessarily a bug, a mechanism in Android, which is the sort of view lifecycle and the activity lifecycle and all this other stuff. But live data, where it monitors the data and updates, that's just a stream, right? And we already have that in Dart. So, and we also have, if you just want to listen to one thing for changes, we have listenable, and there's value notifier, which is an implementation of that. And that's what you want to use. I'd say you probably want to use value notifier in place of live data. Anyone else have any points?
Well, just the whole overall architecture of Flutter is that every time the widget gets rebuilt, it's taking all brand new data from all the places it's getting the data. So you automatically have live data.
I will. You just mentioned 2 points that I want to bring up while we're here, especially for beginners, if they're coming from Android, and that is, as an Android developer, you're sort of programmed not to make deep nested hierarchies, and that's not the case in Flutter. They don't work. The layout system doesn't work the same. It's not a problem. Full stop. Right. And what was the? Sorry, what was the? There was another point. Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter.
You don't need live data because it's already part of the design.
Oh, that was it. That was it. So the other point. Sorry, you just reminded. Thank you. The other point was, when you recreate your widgets, you are not doing anything inefficiently. And what I mean by that is, under the hood, it keeps the render object and all these other things under the hood. Your widgets are just the configuration. They're just the variables that you pass in the constructors mostly, right? Like, they're not actually costing you any real penalty when it comes, not like on it would be on a native platform like Android, iOS, where, like, I think the Android base view is, I think 22,000 lines of code is huge. Yeah, so just to point that out there.
And also the team, the home team, has been working really, really hard to optimize this for 120 frames a second, and it gets there most of the time.
I think one thing that's really important that to understand what Randall already mentioned, that we don't. It's a completely different principle how we update data. It's not that we have some data bindings between some widget on the screen and your view model, and that will update only this widget if the view model changes. No, we rebuild the certain area of the screen, and it will automatically pull the latest data. So this is really something you have to get used to. And also a reason why I generally say that MVVM is not the ideal pattern for a Flutter app, for example. Yeah, because we have it's a model view update what we are doing here.
Isn't there a model view MVI is a similar pattern as well, isn't it? Oh, there's so many of these things.
Model view. One of the things that I've always said is that all of the standard patterns with Flutter, it's like a shoe that's just a little bit off. You can make it work, but really in Flutter, what you want to do is you want to have your object, and within the object is going to have your members. Then whatever logic you have changes the members, they're going to automatically update your widgets, and it's only going to update the ones that need to be rebuilt, and that will rebuild your UI, and then it just sits there and waits. It's a simple reactive paradigm.
Yeah,
there's an event that happens. It hits the decision-making logic, changes a member in your instance, which automatically triggers the UI. Now, what architecture you want to call that? Have fun. You could be doing that for years.
Cool.
So anyway, Majid, we have another question here.
Yes. Oh, okay.
You're asking if Majid has a question, because I can bring more up on the screen if anyone wants.
Oh, there are some apparently Farsi language people in the YouTube right now. So, and they are asking me to speak in Farsi and answer some questions. So I definitely can do that. There is one question in specific. So someone asked that I can translate it and then I can answer in Persian. So someone asked that what is the connection or the link between web application and Flutter application, and how could that work? So it might be even interesting in English to answer this, but then I'll take it in Persian because they asked me to speak in Farsi. Sorry, guys. سلام به همه بچه‌هایی که الان دارن نگاه میکنن این لایو استریم و فارسی زبونا. اول از همه بگم که به زودی داریم کار میکنیم روی کامیونیتی فارسی زبون. توی توییتر یا هر جای دیگه میتونید من فالو کنید، چون به زودی خبراشو میگم. در مورد لینک، این که کلا هر کاری که شما میتونید توی وب انجام بدید به راحتی میتونید توی فلاتر هم انجام بدید و اگر رست API یا GraphQL یا هر چیز دیگه‌ای که دارید اکسپوز میکنید توی وب، توی بک اندتون، خیلی راحت میتونید توی فلاتر هم استفاده کنید. لذا هیچ نگران نباشید. اگر کوئسچنی بیشتری دارید که من باید جواب بدم و به من توی توییتر فالو بکنید، من حتما جوابتون یا توی لینکدین من جوابتون رو میدم. Thank you.
I think that last bit, I got that last bit. It was reach out to me on Twitter if you need more information.
Absolutely, that's correct.
But this question is also interesting in English, please, for the rest of us.
Well, I was saying that, so I think they are worried about like if there is a backend or let's say some web application that consuming REST API or GraphQL or anything else, can they just use the same thing in Flutter or similar approaches? And the answer is definitely, like, there is no limit in Flutter. If you're working with any type of web application, if you have written in any languages your web application, you can do the same, even sometimes easier. Yes, even website. I mean, everything. Like, you can definitely do that. There are similar approaches for sure you have used in your web. You can definitely use it in Flutter and Dart, and it's sometimes even easier, like because a lot of tools comes with Flutter out of the box and Dart, and you don't need to think about it. It's just out of the box, and you just need to use a package. And
talking about out of the box, can you guys add support for accessibility services? We have support for accessibility services. So yes, out of the box you get accessibility services.
Actually, I read some comments.
You just have to use them.
People doubt that we have this. We have it definitely.
We've had it since day one. There's actually an accessibility service built into Flutter which allows you to tell it to speak anything you want. So if you press a button, you can tell them that there was an error occurred. So if you pop out, or you can there's widgets in the framework called Semantics, and that's what you're going to want to read up about. It's called Semantic Widgets. And they offer direction, and you can direct the user to when they're doing like the swipe left and swipe right to kind of go between tabs or go down the UI, and you can control the entire accessibility. This is called an accessibility tree, but you have full control over that for web as well.
Now, one of the interesting things, and we're going way back here to an old joke. Okay, when we first started 3 years ago, we would be beating our head against a problem, trying to solve it. And one of us would turn to the other and say, I'm trying to do this, and there's a widget for that. It's like, wait, what do you mean there's a widget for that? Yeah, there's a widget for that. When you're new, you're going to beat your head against all kinds of things. And odds are somebody's already created that widget. But, you have questions like this about accessibility. It's already there, but you have to find it. And then you have to use it. So fortunately, there's a lot more out there now with documentation. And also remember, widget of the week is your friend. Okay. Put the playlist on your phone, play it all the time, put your phone in a bag, take it in the shower with you, live it, learn it, sleep with it under your pillow.
Okay.
I'm telling you, it'll change your life.
I wanted to follow up I wanted to follow up just a bit with what Majid said about having Dart as a backend. What's really great about that is that you can have you have to verify your data. You have to qualify that the data is valid on all sorts of levels, and it's really nice to use the same exact routines on your phones and on the web as you have on the back end, where you have to do the validation again, because if you don't validate it there again, somebody might freak out your REST API and get stuff past you. So you do have to do the validation in both places. And up until now, we've had to do multiple languages, JavaScript on both sides. It's probably a swear word around here right now, but that kind of thing. So it's nice that we can have the same language on both ends and build really rich applications with.
I think this one can be answered by Thomas. Remember the keyword here, without get it.
I know. Yeah, definitely you can. The question is depending how big your app is and how complex your code gets if you don't use something like a state management solution to separate your widget from your business logic. And so, yeah, it's absolutely possible.
I mean, it's definitely possible to just to be clear, you don't have to separate your business logic from your UI logic. But I kind of feel like you'd be silly to not do that, because by bringing the two together, you kind of end up into that sort of spaghetti code, as we call it, right, in the industry. By separating out the business logic, you can treat that as separate from the UI, and allows you to conceptualize the two things separately and try and understand where bugs are separately. And the same thing with using provider, right? I mean, you don't have to use any of that. The platform does have inherited widget, but it's hard to get the concept in your head for everyone. I think everyone on this call has had that problem of trying to understand inherited widget. It is possible, but what provider does is it wraps up inherited widget, because underneath provider is just inherited widget. It wraps it up into a nicer bundle. So I would honestly recommend use provider. Provider isn't really a state management solution. The problem is the term state management, and I don't want to get into this, but I will just mention it. It's architecture as well. So it's really confusing.
This is actually good for beginners, though.
Yeah. So you can hear the words given like lots of meanings, and it's not going to be very clear. So stick with something simple like provider, I'd say, to begin with, or get it from Thomas here on the call.
Little bit advertisement.
Well, I want to take a crack at something on this real quick.
Get it.
Oh, I'm sorry. I think we had a little bit of lag. I'm sorry, Thomas. But I was having a conversation with someone about this a little while ago someone on the Flutter team. And in short, the question was, why do we call it state management when these solutions are not actually managing the state? It's not making decisions about the state. What these are state propagation approaches. In other words, when something changes in your object, how do you propagate that change and notify everything else in your app? So when you look at a state management package in Flutter, that's what this is really doing. It's going to notify the rest of your app, the rest of your UI, that something changed.
And it's both data access. It's both data access and data notification, because when people ask, how do I get data from this part of the widget tree to that part of the widget tree? Obviously, it's one of these systems. It has to. You can do it the hard way.
I'd say another easy way.
That's state management.
I'm going to say another easy way. I just want to mention this: context dot, and then there's find widget of type. There's find widget of state. There's lots of these things that help you.
Okay, we're way past beginners now. Okay. Anyway, and actually, we've been going for a couple hours, folks.
Yeah. So we're going to start wrapping up in a minute. So get your questions in. Let's get a few more in. How can I make
that one right there? Aspect ratio.
How can I make a responsive design easier? Aspect ratio. And specifically layout builder, right?
Layout builder aspects that,
and media query.
And media query. There you go. 3 things for you to look up: media query, layout builder, and aspect ratio. What is the method channel?
I need to mention that all Arabic questions, I already collected them, and I will create special live in Arabic, answering all unanswered questions. So feel free to ask more questions. Don't worry, I already saved all questions. Thank you all.
That's a very good idea. I'll do it in Persian too.
Yes, thank you.
I'm sure someone can do it in English as well.
And next week, I'm going to try to make sure that we have some folks from India in here as well. And we have had some Spanish speakers already volunteer to pop in, but we haven't seen the need just yet.
Yeah, I was going to say, also don't forget, please comment on the video, any questions, and then we'll add them to the list for the next stream, or we'll answer them up front. So feel free to add all your questions in the comments of the YouTube video. What is a method channel? What is a method channel class, and can you explain briefly? Probably not. Is the short answer. So I will explain something. I will try and keep it brief. Dart. When you compile your Dart code, it runs over here, right, in its own environment, and the operating system is over here, and that's where like Android or iOS is, and you need some way of getting information from Dart to the operating system, like C code. It could be any other language, and then how you get the information back again. And that's what you call it's normally called a channel in this case. And since you're invoking methods, which are functions on the outside or functions on the inside of your Dart environment, it's called a method channel. And there's a lot more information on it. There is actually a whole section in the Flutter.dev documentation about method channels, how you create them, how you use them, how you make plugins. Just look up, I think it's platforms and plugins, packages and plugins. There's a whole section inside and the documentation for that. What else do we have here?
Well, what time is it actually, first of all? Okay, we're at 2 hours and 15 minutes. We still have 500 people.
What is a render object? Honestly,
actually, that's a dangerous question.
I would be.
It's
like asking us a question. What slivers? How do slivers work? It's like
No, it's the word actually that got me. It's like normally we can just kind of paraphrase what it is, but no, if someone's asking what it is under the hood,
view the source. View the source. It's all there.
Yeah, if you want that one, Obi-Wan.
Yeah, every bit of source is there. That's another thing we alluded to earlier. Might as well answer it here now. Is that what's really nice is most IDEs have jumped to the source of this, jumped to the definition of this. And there are many times when I haven't been able to figure out exactly what this particular function is for, or whatever it is, what particular arguments for. I just go to the source, and it's just right there in my IDE, and so I can stare at all this stuff. You know, you can't do that with iOS and Android OSs. All right. You can do it here, all the way down to where it's actually drawing bits on the screen. You've got access to all the layers above that.
And the vast majority of it's in Dart.
You have to say that the Flutter source code is really well documented, so it's not hard to read what is going on below in the Flutter framework, and it's a great way to learn also.
Yes, and also if you're on the website, if you're actually looking at the documentation as printed up in api.dart.dev or api.flutter.dev, there's a little icon in the upper right hand corner. I think it only showed up a few months ago, but it takes you right to the source, right to the GitHub source. So you can just look at it right there. It's awesome.
You can do when you're in your IDs, right? You can command click, right, and control click.
Yeah. Command click, control click is your friend. One other, but just real quick. With that, from a beginner's standpoint, render object, in short, the widget that you write as your blueprint, it creates a mock-up of your widget called in the element tree. And then the render object is what is actually rendered under the hood to your screen. So think of it that way. Your widget is the blueprint you write up. The element is the mock-up. And then the render object is the actual final product that was produced from the blueprint you wrote. So at a beginner's level, that's what a render object is.
So we have another question from Mike Wallace. I'm concerned with multilingual projects. What kind of support does Flutter have for that? Who wants to take this one?
Where's Raz? Sorry,
Anyone?
Raz created a package for that. There's a package for that.
There's actually some plugins that actually help. And there's some auto-generator stuff as well. I forget what they're called. However, Flutter has it all built in. So Flutter has a system app localization, I think it's called. If you just look at material app parameters for supplying localizations, and it allows for that. The difference, and I want to just explain this for beginners. If you come from Android, there's a prescribed way that you add multiple languages. If you come from iOS, there's a prescribed way of adding multiple languages. In Flutter, they learned from their mistakes. And they went, we're not going to limit you to only doing it this way. You can do it however you want. So like the UI is in code, the multilingual stuff is in code. So you can generate like a few of the different plugins generate from JSON files, generate some Dart code, and that Dart code is what you use inside your app. But most of the time, it's just you getting a string from a class. It's pretty straightforward. There is actually a good guide on flutter.dev on the documentation section for localizations. So start there.
I also want to explain something what we talked about earlier, real earlier. We got time, a few minutes. The idea of having vendor XML layout tools, you'll be happy to find Dart or Flutter doesn't work that way. There isn't like a separate language that you have to edit with entirely separate tools and then migrate stuff back and forth and make sure they stay in sync, and then you buy third-party tools to help that. It's no. The layout management is done in Dart in Flutter. And you tell you at the beginning, it's like, no, I want to go lay it out with stuff. No, you'll find that doing it with widgets is much easier.
Actually, because I'm doing multilingual applications in Arabic and in English version, the approach I'm using Flutter_translate package. It's a very good package that support many different language. And
That's the default
answer the question simply, you are seeing it as direction, RTL or LTR. Most of the language are LTR, and there is a language like Farsi and Arabic are RTL. So Flutter_translate with Flutter_localization. You can use both these packages, and you can use any state management solution to save the state of the language the user choose, or save it in shared preferences or something like that. So Flutter_translate, I'm using it in 3 different languages, RTL and LTR, and it's working very good with me.
That's left to right and right to left. If people don't know what those acronyms mean.
Left to right, yeah.
The direction of the language.
Yes.
Okay. We have another question on the screen. Is using deeply nested widgets a good practice in Flutter? What is the effect of deeply nesting on app performance? Well, I mean, I can give you a few pointers, and I guess some of the other people here can as well. In my humble opinion, it's not a problem at all. I mean, the problem comes in when you want to rebuild huge sections of your app. Then you might see a couple of frame drops, right? And that's going to happen no matter what platform you're on. So the key here is to do things a certain way. Really and truthfully, I think the answer here is use Stateful Widget, right? It can really help.
Well, and the other thing I think they may be referring to, I'm vaguely remembering a conversation you and I had 2.5 years ago about the differences in Android versus Flutter when it comes to building wide versus building deep. And if you try to build deeply with Android, apparently a lot of things start to have problems.
Yeah. It's mainly because, like on Android, when it does layout, some of the linear layout, some of these other sort of layouts that lay out widgets like rows and columns, we have our own column, they have linear layout. To solve the equation of layout, because of the way it does wrap content and match parent, it has to travel down the tree twice. Well, now if you nest 3 of these things together, you now cubed the layout time for the 3rd level. So it exponentially increases in time to do some of these layouts, and that's really where the problem comes. In Flutter, we do the layout once only. Now you can use intrinsic width, intrinsic height in your layout, and these are not layout in themselves, but that does incur a little bit more penalty in terms of layout cost, but not a lot. Definitely nowhere near what Android and other layout systems have, should we say. It also means you don't have, constraint layout, I think it's called in Android, where you have to, they flatten the entire hierarchy, right, into one sort of view, and they have to do these complex constraints to like lay everything out. And if you want to change that layout, you have to solve those constraints again, like how you move something around the screen when a new view, when you hide a view or when you show a view. It gets very complicated, and we don't have that problem on Flutter because we can nest and let the constraints work there, solve their problem, solve the layout problems. Okay. Here's one for you. Here's one for people that didn't see it on Monday. Who wants to take this one?
I can take it.
Go for it. Read the question first.
Yes. Is there a Flutter IDE online to develop and build like Flutter app, especially for web? Of course, you can use Dartpad and also CodePen. So definitely you can go and check it out. You don't need to install anything. You just go there, open the pen, and do whatever you want.
And FlutLab.
We can get the links in the chat. I believe it's codepen.io and darkpad.
Yes. I will send it to the chat right now.
Okay. Okay, guys, I have to leave. I have to put the bread in the oven. And see you.
Thank you, Thomas. See ya.
Actually, I want to thank Yazid and Nawal for their effort answering comments and questions. I know Yazid, he's, I think, 14 years old or 15 now. I met him 2 years ago, and he is a Flutter developer also from Saudi Arabia. So thanks, Yazid, for your effort, and thanks, Nawal, for supporting us for Arabic questions.
I think we're going to start winding up now.
Yeah.
My questions were not answered, someone said. Well, I didn't get to them. I didn't see them. There's so many.
That's not a question, that's a statement.
But here's the interesting thing. We can still answer your questions on the follow-up streams, and there'll be more content being released on this channel over this month. So make sure you subscribe and you'll get notified. And don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe.
Yeah. So we're here every Wednesday.
Every Wednesday this month, we're guaranteed to be here. And we hear there might be some birds singing about some more content coming out over the channel over the month. We'll see. So thank you for joining us. Does anyone want to say anything else?
One thing, Simon, can you just put up the hashtag again, so people do not forget to ask your question with the hashtag 30 days of Flutter. Yes, here we go. And well, you can reach out to us. We are almost everywhere, and so all of the community way that you can talk to us, like Discord, Slack, in Twitter, LinkedIn, everywhere.
I'll do my hour and a half of walking through all the questions. Yes.
Where's the tweet handles?
Above you.
Simon?
Above you.
No, not that one. Ours.
Oh, ours.
Oh, the tweet handles. Yes. You can find us.
Oh, how are they going to find us if they don't know where to find us?
Yeah, you can find us on these.
Yes.
Yeah.
And also, there was a little bit of confusion apparently on Monday. There is not a stream every single day during the 30 days of Flutter.
Yes.
Unfortunately, we have bills to pay, and we do have to be doing other things. But we are back here again 1 week from today, next Wednesday, and there will be more Googlers.
More Googlers. And and keep listening on the channel. As I said, more content is coming.
Yes.
So thank you very much. And I guess we'll see you all very soon. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye. Goodbye.
Thanks for coming.
Goodbye. Goodbye.